There was a point in time where I thought Bale would be the best player in the world. That Bale versus Neymar would replace Ronaldo versus Messi. It really seemed that we were on the verge of something great. But for one reason or another, neither of them managed to get even close to the standard set by arguably the two greatest of all time. Out of the two, Bale was the one who disappointed the most. When Bale came up, I was already a big fan of Neymar. I would search YouTube all over for clips of the kid who seemed destined to be the next Ronaldinho. Back then, it seemed like whoever tried to challenge Neymar would come out on the losing side from my perspective. But then came Bale. He was strong, with shoulders so broad he barely even resembled a winger, with speed that seemed to defy all that I've just said. For a second there, it seemed like Real Madrid would have another Ronaldo to mimic his every characteristic on the opposite flank. But if Bale was expected to one day replace him, he ended up even failing to be the co-star we wanted him to be. You should look at this video as a reflection on what happened, on learning from the past in order to understand what will come next for Gareth Bale. It all started in 1989 in Cardiff. Being born in Wales must be something peculiar for a kid who is heavily interested in pursuing football. You are born in the United Kingdom, one of the countries that are most culturally linked with football, yet you are stopped from ever playing international football with your English compatriots, being left to play for a national team with a history of struggle. Maybe I just don't fully understand their culture, but it always seemed really tough to me. Growing up, Bale showed interest in all kinds of sports, taking part in rugby, hockey, and even track and field, claiming that at the age of 14 he could run an 11.4 at 100 meters, incredibly close to a national record, which, by the way, really explains a lot. Regardless, after playing for his school's football team, he would eventually join a club called Cardiff Civil Service FC, and it would be in a six-a-side tournament with this club that he would catch the eye of a Southampton scout. So impressed with his talent, he would approach his parents carefully as to not alert any other scout of his interest. Soon after, Bale would join Southampton at one of their satellite academies near Bristol. Over the years that followed, Bale helped not only Southampton but also his school's football team to many successes. One of his PE teachers has even said it was completely unfair for the other kids to play with Bale. It got so bad that it started giving him little challenges like playing only with his weak foot or just one-touch football. The struggles of a prodigy, I guess. Once he graduated, Southampton really didn't waste any time, calling him up before the end of the season. Only 16 years old, Bale was the second youngest player to ever get called up by them, second only to Theo Walcott. The following season, there was no denying his qualities. Bale would play 43 matches for the club, being a constant threat to the opposition and even becoming famous for being a dead ball specialist. All of this sounds even more impressive once you hear one little fact. Back then, Bale was still playing as a left back. As his defensive skills improved over the season, there was no denying it. We were dealing with a once-in-a-generation talent, the best young player of the season, and he needed a move to a bigger club. So came Tottenham, paying a measly £5 million for this incredible young man. Over his first 3 months at the club, he managed to earn himself 12 appearances, scoring a few goals, including a free kick in the North London derby that left the fans salivating for more. Unfortunately, the season would be cut short very early on, as he would suffer ligament damage in a match against Birmingham City. Over summer, as he had recovered, he got his first call to play for the Welsh national team, though it would be a long time until he got to play in an actual international tournament. In a way, his statements at the time give some context to my questions early on in the video, referring to the potential scenario of him playing for the English national team. When questioned about it, Bale simply said, "I don't care if I never qualify, I'm never playing for England." It is what it is. As he came back the following season, he would be playing well, though it would not offer anything spectacular and was not an undisputed starter by any means. In a way, the season would sort of go by without much development in the 30 matches he got to play. Once the following season started, another injury left him out for a while and led him to be sidelined even more often in favor of Asso Ekoto. who was in great form at the time. There was reason to worry for the future of Gareth Bale, but in a way, I guess he owes a lot to the feeble groin of Asoe Koto, which would put him out and force Harry Redknapp to play Bale as a regular starter. Over the next 2 months, culminated in Bale being awarded with the Premier League Player of the Month award. After getting the winning goals in both the North London derby and the match against eventual champions Chelsea, all while looking unbeatable from the wing-back position, as it now belonged to Gareth Bale, and he was going to leave his mark. He would carry out the rest of the season maintaining this new standard and eventually carrying it to the following season. From the get-go, the incredible performances would come, notably scoring twice to turn the game around against Stoke City and then getting an incredible 4 assists in a single Champions League game against Young Boys. These performances should have been a sign that a career-defining moment was coming, but regardless, no one was expecting what would happen once Tottenham met Inter at the iconic San Siro Stadium. It should be noted that at the time Tottenham were transitioning into this period of overperformance that they're now experiencing. That season was their second ever in the Champions League, 1962. They weren't favorites anywhere, but in San Siro they seemed determined to make their chances even more scarce. Under 2 minutes they conceded the first. By the 8th minute their goalkeeper got himself sent off and Luka Modric was put on the chopping block in exchange for a new goalkeeper. By minute 14 they were losing 3-0. They were being exposed as the rookies they were, and it was honestly just embarrassing. Though the humiliation did slow down by halftime, they would have conceded yet another one. Would have been insane. But then, with 1 minute to go, Bale scored an exact copy of that goal. It's honestly hard to tell them apart. It was the perfect night for Bale despite the loss, and then he scored again. Though this time he wouldn't get to sprint down the wing like a road runner, he would get to shoot from about the same spot. Remember when I said it was a tough angle? It was nothing for Gareth Bale. I guarantee you when that match ended, no Spurs fan was thinking about the loss. All they could think about was, who is this kid really, and how have we got him in our squad? Once Inter was forced to come to White Hart Lane, they were two completely different teams. It was like Bale had scarred them. He would continuously toy with Maicon on the left flank, and though Tottenham would go in front without his involvement, over the remainder of the game, Bale would supply his teammates with cross after cross, leading to 3 goals, though one would be disallowed, as in classic Bale fashion, he had taken the opportunity to run outside the pitch, and unfortunately, on this occasion, so did the ball for a quick second. All doubts were dead in the water. Bale was one of the best players in the world, and he seemed more than capable of getting even better. Over the rest of the year, Bale would keep pushing Tottenham some back problems that stopped Bale from maintaining his performances. His efforts would be recognized with a PFA Player of the Year award. The following season seemed like a sort of transition period for the team, and though it served for Bale to show clear improvements to his goal-scoring and assist-making abilities, totaling an impressive 30 for the season, it wouldn't be enough to leave much of a mark. Tottenham would finish 4th and would miss the Champions League spots. They would not go very far in any of the cup competitions. In a way, the highlight of Bale's season would be a Premier League Player of the Month award, which is not representative of his level on the pitch. Thankfully for him, the 2012-2013 season would be a hallmark in his career. Bale finally got moved up the pitch in a truly significant manner, telling the journalists that he wasn't a left back anymore, taking the number 11, and even getting some playing time as a second striker. After this, he quite simply proved to everyone that he could indeed take it a step further. Out of nowhere, he was now a different beast. By January, Bale had scored 9 goals and provided 4 assists in 17 Premier League games, and still, Spurs were 5th on the table. Hard to believe, it seemed no matter what Bale did, there was no way he could help the team all by himself. Anyone would have gotten frustrated, but Bale just pushed even harder. Over the second half of the season, he was absolutely unstoppable. Up from the 24th match day of the season as Spurs were placed 4th, Bale got 16 goals and assists in 11 matches. By the end of this streak, in which he failed to score only twice, though he got 2 assists across those 2 matches, Spurs had somehow gone down to 5th in the table. It had been proven. There was nothing anyone could do to save them. In the remaining competitions, it was the same story. In the Europa League, he got 6 goal contributions in 8 matches, only for Tottenham to go out against Basel the moment he got injured. In the FA Cup, even more shockingly, Bale scored or assisted every one of the 4 goals scored by Tottenham, and they still managed to go out after just 2 rounds against Leeds United. No matter how frustrating this might have been, the world was as aware of Tottenham's shortcomings as Bale was, and so he became the second player after only Cristiano Ronaldo to win the PFA Player of the Year, PFA Young Player of the Year, and the FWA Player of the Year awards, all in a single season. It was clear Bale needed and deserved the move. It was futile for Tottenham to even try and keep Bale. As harsh as it might seem, they have proven they didn't deserve to have a player of that caliber in their squad. There would be about 2 months of intense back and forth and contemplation, but eventually the rumors were proven true. Gareth Bale was going to be a modern-day Galactico, joining Cristiano at Real Madrid as his transfer would break Ronaldo's record. Gareth Bale would become the first ever €100 million player, an honor to say the very least. It should probably be mentioned that his transfer was a bit controversial. Some say the value was being exaggerated for marketing reasons, some say the opposite, that Real claimed a lower value to take off some weight from the player's shoulders. Who knows? The fact is that eventually there would be leaks, years after the transfer, and the exact value would be confirmed. €100.8 million, 6 more than Cristiano Ronaldo. What a duo they were set out to be. In his first season at Real, Bale was deployed at the flank and he dazzled most. Still, injuries would disrupt the first half of the season, only getting to play the full 90 in 7 occasions, getting 8 goals and 6 assists across those 7 matches, but those would be the only glimpses of his true worth up to that point. In the second half, though he kept fit, a slight dip in form up till April led journalists to start claiming that Bale doesn't know how to play football, only how to run. The type of harsh criticism that a player who got 8 goals and assists in 13 matches could only get in Madrid. He would end the season by scoring the most iconic goal of his career, running through the staff area to overtake Marc Bartra and score the winner in the El Clásico final of the Copa del Rey with 5 minutes to go, only to score yet another iconic goal 1 month after in the final of the Champions League to help Real Madrid on their way to the fabled La Décima. To add just one more, he would also score in the final of the Club World Cup. This should easily be an impressive debut season. Undeniable, Bale seemed to show up every time he was needed. But a €100 million price tag, added to the usual high standards of the Madrid crowd, led some to still question his worth. His second season wouldn't be the nail in the coffin, but it would sway a lot of opinions in the wrong way. Bale would barely ever get injured that year and would get to play the most matches he ever managed to, but somehow he would put out some of the lowest goal-scoring records he had managed in recent years. Even worse, he would be virtually invisible in the Champions League knockouts, not getting a single goal or assist. This disappointing ending to the season led Ancelotti to be replaced with Benitez. Bale liked him very much, he did well under him, everything. But the other players and fans did not share this feeling, and so, by January, he was gone and in came Zidane. Maybe it was because of Bale showing discontent for this change, but Zidane and Bale never got along too well. At first, it wouldn't be too obvious. Bale was struggling physically but still managed 5 goals in his first 140 minutes with Zidane before he got seriously hurt and was out for about a month and a half. As he came back, it seemed he was en route to ghost the Champions League knockouts once again. But in the final 2 matches, he assisted Real's only 2 goals and then scored his penalty in the decisive shootouts to get them their 11th Champions League title. Over summer, Bale got to play his only ever international tournament, the Euro 2016. It was a special moment for Wales, and it came in great part due to the exceptional player that Bale was, getting 9 goals and assists in 10 matches through the qualifiers. In the tournament itself, he was good as well, scored in every group stage match to get Wales the first place ahead of England, an historic moment for the national team. In the last 16 round, he had an off game, but against Belgium, despite not scoring or assisting, he was everywhere, constantly going at them, causing the sort of chaos that leads to a goal. They would only get knocked out by eventual champions Portugal in the semi-finals, as his teammate Cristiano Ronaldo scored and assisted to take Portugal to the final. I remember watching this game and noticing Bale's frustration. The Portuguese kept getting the better of him, but if there's any testament to how good this man was, it could be noticed in my expressions at the time. Every time he took a long shot, I felt scared. The following season, things got serious. Bale missed 29 matches due to injury, part of it because he insisted that he was okay and convinced Zidane to play him, maybe because he sensed that his place in the team was in more risk than ever, but it only led him to push it too hard and get his other leg injured. Zidane was upset that he lied to him, and if he was already getting more and more infatuated by the young Marco Asensio, who at the time seemed to be delivering every time he played, maybe this was what led their relationship to get sour. The following season, Bale became a rotation player, barely ever getting used for the full 90 and frequently getting used in a more central position to accommodate for players like Isco and Asensio. It was clear to everyone that Zidane was not afraid of bruising Bale's ego. His season lacked in the iconic performance department. Bale mania was dying down for good. Maybe he knew that because that year he wrote perhaps the greatest chapter in his love story with finals. For the third year in a row, Real Madrid were in the final of the Champions League. Cristiano Ronaldo had just come off a streak where he scored 26 goals in 15 matches. Before the semi-finals, he had scored in 12 consecutive Champions League matches and totaled 15 goals already this season. If you rule out his other seasons, that would be the greatest season in the history of the competition. It seemed no one could stop this team as long as Ronaldo was fit. As the month of the final arrived, Ronaldo got injured. The red alert was on and the alarms were sounded. Real Madrid was in danger. As the final day arrived, it was clear Ronaldo was not fully fit and the match would be a tough fight, maybe even in favor of Liverpool, until the 60th minute when Bale got subbed in. Just 4 minutes later, Bale scored perhaps the best Champions League final goal of all time, a stunning bicycle kick to put Real Madrid in front. I've said this before, but that would have been enough to make this already a masterpiece of a performance. But then, Bale scored a long-range effort to seal the final. It was easily the man of the match, the hero Real so desperately needed that day. Bale ended the season with 9 goals in 5 matches. Not much more could be asked of him. As Ronaldo left to Juventus, Bale thought he would finally get a chance to prove his worth, but still, somehow, players like Lucas Vazquez would get more minutes than Bale over the next season. Sure, Bale had 5 different injuries that season, but only one of them left him out for more than one match. It's easy to understand his frustration. He was still delivering a goal every 120 minutes. What more could be asked of him to get a place in a trophyless Real Madrid team struggling to rebound from the loss of their greatest ever player? I expected him to leave, but he didn't. He stayed for one more season. He was barely getting played. In the first half, he only scored in one match, and in the second, he played a total of around 300 minutes. The drama was uncontrollable at this point. Bale would openly say that he would stay as long as he got paid, knowing Real weren't willing to pay him out of his millionaire contract. In November, he took it to a whole new level, displaying a flag in a qualifier for the Euros that read Wales, Golf, Madrid, in that order. That was like spitting in the face of every Madrid fan. No one was that grateful for the past anymore. And so, he got loaned out to Tottenham, back to his old club, playing under Mourinho. The start was awful, there's no denying it. Bale was always either injured or benched. Many jumped on the bandwagon and declared him finished, but suddenly, in February, as he seemed to be finally fully fit, all cylinders started firing again. And over that final stretch, Bale managed 12 goals and 3 assists in 18 matches, though he never played a full match. This meant a goal or assist every 57 minutes. That is quite simply unmatched by other players, even the most in form at the moment, like Lewandowski, Harry Kane or Bruno Fernandes. No one gets even remotely close to that. The season has now ended, and these few matches left us all in great anticipation. Some say he'll go back to Madrid, but does he want to, and does Zidane want him to? Will he stay? Should he stay? We are living in a defining moment in the career of Gareth Bale. I don't know what he should do, but I hope he makes the right decision. He's now 31 years old and the clock is ticking. If it all ended now, do you think Bale is an all-time great? Because I certainly don't have an answer yet.